Okay, here we have a ceiling suspended X-ray tube. The X-ray tube is in the X-ray housing, which is basically a cylinder. So if you're going to draw this, or in 2D or in 3D, it's simply drawing a cylinder. The X-rays come out of the tube through a box or a cube that is called the light beam diaphragm, and this shapes the X-ray beam. So wherever the light beam is, the X-rays will follow the same pathway. So at the moment they're basically in a square of radiation. Now we are able to angle, or we have a need when we're working to be able to angle the beam. So we've drawn an X and a Y axis on the floor here, and if we angle the beam, say 30 degrees along the X axis, you can see basically where the centre of the X-ray beam is coming vertical at the moment, and if we angle the beam 30 degrees, the centre of the field will be at 30 degrees along the X-axis, and that's fairly straightforward and it's something that we would do every day. Now you could imagine here there's also a Z-axis. It's basically vertical coming out of the intersection of the X and the Y axis. And this tube will actually rotate around the Z-axis, and we'll just do that now. We're rotating the tube around the Z-axis. Okay, so in this point we've arrived at here. So we've turned the tube through 90 degrees and it's rotated around the Z-axis, which in this case is a vertical column. And the angle of the beam along the X-axis is now 0. Yeah, it's effectively, well, it's 0. Effectively, the beam is vertical in relation to the X-axis. But if you look at what's happened in the Y-axis, in the 30 degrees that we had along the X-axis is now 30 degrees along the Y-axis. Now the question we have, the specific question that we're trying to answer, is not what's happening when we angle along the Y-axis, and not what's happening when we angle along the X-axis. It's what happens in between. So as we rotate through 90 degrees, sort of through, you can see the light is sort of describing an arc here. We're sort of halfway now. We're halfway between the X-axis and the Y-axis. What is the angle of the beam in the direction along the X-axis, and what is the angle of the beam along the Y-axis? And we refer to this as a compound angle. And this is largely a question of mathematics, and we think there is a sine, S-I-N-E relationship here, but we're not exactly sure we haven't worked out what it is. The other question is whether if we have a 3D model, whether we can make that movement from X to Y axis and have a continuous readout of the X, Y and Z angles as the 3D model is rotating.